Facebook has recovered about 2/3 of what they've lost so far since the Cambridge Analytica scandal broke. Abigail, what are we watching over the next weeks and months? Just today, this realization that they are expecting to disclose more Cambridge Analytica potentially like scandals as they continue their internal investigation.
I think that what would really turn sentiment to the more negative, because obviously what happened in March, or I should maybe not obviously, but it was really a big hit to the company, to investor sentiment, and certainly to the stock at that time. But what could possibly make it worse is if any of those revelations were going to drag on the top or the bottom lines. Because so far, everything with Cambridge Analytica, it looks like it's not disrupting users to any big degree, and it's not disrupting advertisers. But if some of the news to come out in the future were to suggest that at some point it is going to impact the financials, I think that could perhaps really create a dent in sentiment. But right now, the fact that we've had some sort of little bottoming here after the earnings report showing that this company can just continue to put up big numbers, even with that kind of an issue, suggests that investors are looking past it for now. If the financial picture changes, then the stock and the sentiment would probably go with it.
This from SEC filings, where Facebook says it expects to discover and announce more instances of misuse of user data or other undesirable activity by third parties. Shira, the question of the quarter really is this going to be just a blip for Facebook? Is Facebook simply going to recover? And does it continue to obviously have long runway, especially given the other properties that Facebook owns? What's your sense?
I think Abigail's right. Look, that none of the privacy and misinformation scandals that Facebook's been embroiled in for the last 18 months have affected its advertising business yet. So that's the big question. I mean, it was pretty stunning to see that a company of Facebook's size with more than $40 billion in annual revenue, the revenue growth rate accelerated in the first quarter, which is not something that is easy to do when you're a company the size of Facebook. So that shows that advertisers, despite all the noise around Facebook, they find that buying ads on Facebook works. It delivers more business, it finds them customers. So unless that changes, it's hard to imagine that the Facebook story starts to break down. The thing that I worry about is on the user side, that if you look at sentiment on the user side about Facebook, it's bad. The people generally do not trust Facebook in user surveys. Again, that's not necessarily showing up in usage of Facebook yet, but I feel like these scandals have a cumulative effect where people, they don't feel like they want to be on Facebook, even if it's useful to their personal lives. It just kind of has a little bit of a stink to it.
That has been my sense anecdotally, that users are just annoyed at Facebook right now, don't trust Facebook, and yet we haven't seen that impact. Paul, will we? Or, is it because we live in this bubble where we're the only ones talking about this?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, we certainly didn't see it in the quarter that was just reported, because it simply occurred too late in the quarter. So investors are going to still be looking at this over the next several quarters. And I think what investors feel like is, okay, we expect margins maybe to be under pressure because Facebook is likely to step up spending to try to curtail some of these data issues, whether it's headcount, whether it's more R&D in putting in some artificial intelligence. I think the market has discounted that and is pretty comfortable. What the market, I think, would find a negative development would be if, in fact, as we've been talking about, either their users decline in terms of monthly average users or their engagement declined in terms of daily active users. That would be an issue. But let's not forget that there are other revenue levers for this company to pull, most notably Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger. So even if the core Facebook product faces challenges from a user perspective, this company has other levers to pull on the revenue side.
Apple shares, meantime, ended just over 1% down today. Of course, the company reporting on Tuesday. Shira, how will this be different than what we've seen from everyone else?
Well, Apple is kind of in a different category than these internet companies, largely because it's primarily a smartphone company, right? That's how it generates the majority of its revenue. And we've seen this industry-wide trend that's showing up in the smartphone chip companies that have reported earnings the last week or two, that there is a industry-wide global slowdown in smartphone sales, and it's going to be very hard for Apple to buck that trend. So yes, it's charging more for the iPhone, including the iPhone 10. That's $1,000 and up, so that offsets some of the unit slowdown in smartphone sales. But that is really the crux of Apple's problem, that it is highly dependent on sales of smartphone. And if you look across the globe, sales of smartphones are ground to a halt.